Discover how a lone rancher's incredible act transformed this Chinese widow's life forever. Jake stood on the porch of his ranch, the vast expanse of Montana stretching infinitely beneath a sky as heavy as his sorrow. The sun dipped low, casting shadows that twisted the broken fences and crumbling barn into ominous figures, much like the ghosts of his past that haunted him daily. At 35, he was a rugged rancher, skilled in the ways of cattle and the land, yet utterly unprepared for the grief that followed his sister's death. Her absence was a palpable ache, a reminder that the life he was diligently maintaining felt empty, devoid of the laughter and warmth she had once brought. He could still hear her voice echoing across the plains, mingled with the howling wind that whispered secrets he dared not confront. Decisions weighed heavily on him. With each day the demands of the ranch grew, yet so did the reminder of his sister's dreams, of the legacy she entrusted to him, a legacy he felt increasingly unworthy to bear. The ranch was dilapidated, much like his spirit. Could he really transform this land into something akin to what she had envisioned? Or was he just choosing to live in the shadows of his grief, letting the rusted remnants of their shared hopes crumble into dust? The idea of letting it all go, abandoning the land and her memory, flickered like an ember in his mind, but fear kept him tethered. Fear of betrayal, of loss, of further isolation. His mind raced between doubt and determination, the shadows around him far more tangible than the responsibilities demanding his attention. The livestock needed care, the pastures begged for revival, yet each task felt meaningless without her. As evening settled, the loneliness of the horizon felt suffocating. It was a reminder that he wrestled not only with grief, but with the relentless expectations of surviving in solitude. Could he keep up the fight? Every urge to conquer the day was replaced with whispers of his failures echoing louder with each setting sun. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The tension in Jake grew suffocating. He glanced down at his hands, calloused and worn from hard labor, and felt himself drowning in despair. Part of him longed to break free from this cycle. As he stood there, caught between anguish and responsibility, an unexpected flicker of hope kindled deep inside him. The online charity broadcast had illuminated a world beyond his own, a story far removed yet eerily similar, a Chinese widow named May. She fought to keep her family's ancestral land intact, desperately clinging to her late husband's dreams while teetering on the brink of despair. Could reaching out to her ignite a path toward healing for them both? But what if the act of caring only intensified his own grief? The thought gripped him tighter than the metal of a rusted gate, weighing down his resolve. As Jake felt the rising tide of uncertainty swell within him, he knew he was about to step into a new chapter, one rife with challenges and hidden complexities. A deep breath cracked his tense posture, but the familiar ghosts loomed, whispering fears about what unforeseen complications might unfold. What if his good intentions unraveled old wounds? As he prepared to act, the air buzzed with unspoken potential, a whisper of destiny that seemed poised to transform their lives forever, yet warned him of the simmering tensions and secrets waiting just beneath the surface. As the first light of dawn began to chase away the shadows, Jake stood resolute, finally deciding to take the first step into uncharted territory. With each passing moment, his initial hesitation transformed into a quiet determination. The idea of reaching out to May settled in his mind like a set stone, heavy yet comforting. It was a rebellion against a life that had become defined by grief, an act that would force him to confront not only his own scars but also the possibility of healing. He grabbed a pen and some weathered stationery, the edges frayed from years on the writing desk in the barn. Each stroke felt significant, as though he were digging into the soil of his sister's dreams and unearthing a new purpose. What should he say? His thoughts twisted like the wind outside, and he fought against the urge to overthink this decision. He needed to be honest, but hopeful, reflecting the heartache and yearning for transformation that mirrored his own struggle. "Dear May," he began, the words flowing more easily than he anticipated. "I saw your story and felt an immediate connection. You and I are fighting similar battles, tethering ourselves to memories while attempting to honor the dreams of those we've lost." As he continued, he allowed himself to write freely, not censoring his emotions. The ink flowed, carrying pieces of his heart onto the page, laying bare the depths of his sorrow alongside the flickers of hope residing there. It was intimidating to admit his vulnerabilities, yet empowering too. The act of reaching out felt like breathing for the first time after being underwater too long. Each word became a small declaration of his intent, to seek connection, to unite his pain with hers, and perhaps to intertwine their futures in a way that honored both their legacies. After distilling his emotions onto paper, he sealed the letter, allowing a moment of composure to wash over him. The anticipation pricked at him. Could May respond? Would his vulnerable outreach translate into something tangible? Or would it remain a silent echo of his desires? Just as the weight of uncertainty threatened to breach the surface of his resolve, he shook it off, deciding it was too late for second-guessing. With a plan in motion, Jake turned his attention back to the neglected ranch. The letter sent sparks of energy through him. The weeds in the garden began to resemble hardy reminders of life waiting to bloom. The crumbling barn stood tall against his newfound determination, and even the cattle seemed to acknowledge his resolve with soft, compassionate eyes. Over the course of several days, he poured his heart into his work, fixing fences, mending roofs, and tending to the cattle. Each completed task rekindled a sense of ownership and equilibrium, as if each labor was slowly stitching together the fabric of a life he thought he'd lost. With every drop of sweat, he reclaimed not just the physical space of the ranch, but also the essence of who he had been alongside his sister. As his energy surged, Jake felt a change within himself, a shift that radiated hope instead of despair. He invested in the dream they had shared, imagining the possibility of a partnership with May, where both their scars could bind them together. However, just as everything seemed to align, an unsettling thought crept into his mind. Was he ready to face the consequences of such a significant connection? Jake lingered over dinner that evening, the faint sound of a rustling envelope breaking through his reverie. With bated breath, he turned to the doorway, a cascade of anticipation clashing against the walls of his heart. A presence. A message. Was it her? And with that question hanging in the air, the weight of possibility bore down heavier than ever. The envelope lay on the table, a thin barrier between renewed hope and trepidation. Jake's heart raced as he stared at it, the familiar weight of anticipation mixing with a shred of anxiety. What would he discover inside? The thought of disappointment loomed like a thundercloud, threatening to overshadow the progress he had made in recent days. With a sudden rush, he reached for the envelope, the parchment crumbling softly beneath his fingers. There was no turning back now. This was an act of agency, a claim on the future he wished to create. He tore it open, breath shallow, and extracted the letter with a grace he didn't know he possessed. "Dear Jake," it began, the handwriting distinct and flowing. His eyes skimmed across the page, absorbing her words like a sponge. May spoke of loss, too, her own battles etched into each line. They were tethered by similar grief, intertwined in an understanding that bridged the gap of distance and circumstance. "Thank you for your honesty," she continued. "It's rare to find someone who understands the quiet ache of shared moments, long gone." Jake felt the warmth of connection stir within him, a fire rekindling against the chill of uncertainty. She described her current challenges, the weight of her dreams pressing down heavily upon her. Yet, there was something else in her words, an echo of resilience, a hint of possibility that mirrored the emotions he had poured into his own letter. In that moment, just as he felt a connection forming, a wave of self-doubt washed over him. What if they were both clinging too tightly to memories? What if their mutual sorrow eclipsed the chance for healing? He set down the letter, the warm glow surrounding him suddenly feeling confining. Did he have the capacity to transform this vulnerability into something more than just shared heartache? He pushed the thought aside, unwilling to linger on the shadows. Encouraged by May's empathy, he found clarity. She too was searching for solace, a kindred spirit to face the remaining echoes of their pasts. A blast of insight surged through him, and he grabbed a fresh piece of paper ready to reply, this time with purpose. "I believe our paths crossed for a reason," he wrote, pouring into each line his desire not just for companionship but for collaboration in their mutual healing. He would share his plans for the ranch, how he envisioned a project that honored his sister's hopes while offering May a reinvigorated passion for life. "Let's create something that breathes with the memories we cherish," he scribbled fervently, feelings crystallizing into action. The follow-up felt daunting yet invigorating, a blueprint of possibilities. Could their joined visions lift them both? Jake warmly imagined May stepping onto the ranch, laughter blending with the sound of hoofbeats, the air pungent with new life. But as he sealed the envelope, an unsettling thought took root. What if she declined? What if her fears held her back, trapping them in a cycle of longing? The moment of truth loomed near, leaving him questioning whether he was ready for the kind of connection that asked for not only shared burdens, but also shared victories. As he walked to the mailbox, weight pressing upon his chest, he couldn't escape the tension building within him. With a determined breath, he dropped the letter in, sealing it not only in an envelope, but into the very essence of his resolve. Would her response help him confront the ghosts of his past or deepen the shadows they both sought to escape? The twilight sky stretched overhead, heavy with promise, yet the uncertainty was palpable, leaving Jake standing at the threshold of an unknown future with May. And as he gazed back at the ranch with its creaking barn and swaying grass, a new question emerged. Was he truly ready to face the beauty and chaos of forging a new path together? Days melded together into a rhythm of waiting, each heartbeat echoing the pulse of uncertainty in Jake's chest. He filled the hours with routines, checking the fences, tending the horses, and poring over plans for the new barn. Despite the physical work grounding him, his mind continually wandered back to May, to the possibilities their exchanged words created. Would she respond? How would their collaboration unfold? Would it be a leap into the unknown or just another cycle of disappointing dreams? As the sun dipped below the horizon one evening, a subtle shift whirled through his thoughts. The ranch, for all its beauty, often felt haunted by his solitude. He began to view it not just as a refuge but as a canvas awaiting transformation. The project he envisioned would not only honor his sister's dreams but could also be a bridge between his world and May's. This wasn't just about healing yet another wound. It was a chance to weave a narrative of resilience, to build something robust alongside someone who understood loss. With renewed fervor, Jake scheduled a meeting with his old friend Daniel, an architect who thrived on innovative ideas. He appreciated Daniel's creative spirit, as it always complemented Jake's methodical nature. The following morning, they sat in the weathered cafe in town, its walls heavy with the chatter of locals and the aroma of fresh coffee. Jake's heart raced as he unfolded his dreams, outlining how he envisioned the ranch blossoming into a community-oriented space. "I want it to be a place where people can reconnect, share stories, heal, even if just through shared endeavors." As Jake spoke, Daniel leaned back in his chair, assessing, mulling over the vision. "You've got the right instincts, Jake. But beyond a shared space, you need a strong narrative. It's not just land, it's what it signifies." Those words twisted within him like a bolt of lightning. Could it be that simple? A narrative igniting connection? The ranch was already rich in stories. He just needed to articulate them, to shape them into something palpable that others could share in. What if each corner of this land could breathe life into the hopes and sorrows of other wanderers? Daniel's enthusiasm fed his own, and together they crafted ideas, family events, workshops, and creative spaces for personal reflection. Every notion sparked a new thread, weaving together the potential for something larger than himself. Yet, doubt again surfaced. Would this community thrive, or would it similarly become lost in the echoes of past misfortunes? Jake's eagerness led to a flurry of decisions. He began planning, outlining every detail with relentless energy, discovering capabilities he hadn't realized he possessed. He took on the practical logistics, researching permits, budgeting, and formulating a timeline. Each step provided a tangible structure to his formerly intangible ideas. The act of creating brought clarity rather than chaos. He felt invigorated when he began physically remaking the barn, repurposing it to align with his vision. As he hammered against the wood and mixed fresh paint, every stroke became a meditation, quieting the fears brewing within him. Yet, with the satisfaction of progress came lingering questions. At the core of this endeavor remained May and her potential contribution to the vision. Could he truly extend his hand and fuse their paths into a shared journey? What awaited if he reached out and invited her to step into this new chapter? Teetering on the edge of excitement and apprehension, Jake's heart tugged at the desire for connection, both for himself and for May. The afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the nearly transformed barn when he received a ping on his phone. A notification. May's name flashed across the screen, stirring a sudden storm of emotions within him as he hesitated to open it. Would her response carry the promise of collaboration and healing, or would it leave him reeling in disappointment yet again? As anticipation churned inside him, the tension of the transformation hung in the air. Potent and unresolved, Jake's heart pounded in his chest as he stared at his phone, the brightness of the screen competing with the warmth of the sun. The magnetic pull of hope clashed with the weight of past disappointments, each second stretching into an eternity. Finally, he steadied his breath and thumbed the notification open. May's message was concise yet resonant. She expressed excitement about his ideas, the potential for partnership glowing in her words. Jake felt a rush of warmth flood his core, igniting a fierce determination to reach beyond the solitary boundaries of his life. This wasn't merely an opening, it was an invitation, a chance to redefine his narrative alongside someone who also understood the depths of loss. Yet, as he read her message again, questions bubbled to the surface. How would they bridge their different worlds? Would she understand the gravity of what he wanted to create? With renewed vigor coursing through him, Jake replied almost instantly, detailing the core of his vision. Each word became a thread binding them closer, a small revolution against his fears that had once rooted him in that lonely place. Days passed in a flurry of anticipation. With each moment, Jake twisted the weight of responsibility and expectation in his mind. Her next message had rekindled a spark, inspiring him to delve deeper into the project, envisioning more than just the physical transformation of the ranch but the emotional landscape it could create. He began sketching out new ideas, an artist's retreat, a cultural exchange that could thirst for balance between their experiences. By the time her response arrived, Jake had constructed more than plans. He had laid the groundwork for his own rebirth. To Jake's delight, May reciprocated his zeal, expressing a desire to bring her own cultural insights into the mix. The collaboration wasn't just burgeoning, it felt electric, a convergence of their life stories. With each correspondence, he observed a shift in himself. Where once doubt loomed heavy, clarity emerged. For the first time in years, Jake no longer felt impelled solely by obligation to his sister's wishes. Instead, he moved toward a vision that invited growth and healing for both of them. This was about forging new paths, delving into shared aspirations that transcended their individual grief. As the hands of the clock seemed to accelerate, Jake remained focused on his physical work. The barn was steadily becoming the embodiment of his vision. The structure transformed with every hammer blow, and he took pleasure in envisioning the gatherings that would occur within its walls. Despite the external satisfaction, internal conflicts gnawed at him. Was he making assumptions about May's partnership that might overlook the importance of her own goals? The very foundation of this project could crumble if they weren't on the same page. Each time he paused, absorbing the warmth of the sun, the insecurity of his decisions roared to the surface. In his moments of solitude, he dissected the narrative they were building together. Their stories, while unique, could weave an intricate tapestry of resilience and hope. But he sensed the complexity of melding their visions without losing track of the essence of their personal journeys. Days turned into sleepless nights, each one followed by awakening moments of inspiration that propelled him onward. Communication between them intensified, shifting from logistics to philosophy, where they challenged each other's ideas and supported their dreams. uncovering deeper layers of vulnerability and ambition. But beneath the excitement swam an undercurrent of fear. Would vulnerability help or hinder their budding relationship? The difficulty of revealing too much felt like a weight. Could he share such profound aspects of his life with someone still grappling with her own? Was it wise to invite May into his heart when they were still deciphering the blueprint of their shared endeavor? As Jake stood at the threshold of the barn one afternoon, looking out over the landscape that had slowly come alive with possibilities, he felt the soft vibrations of his phone once more. Another notification. May was reaching out again, and he could feel the excitement mingling with the dread of what her words might reveal. The stakes had risen, and as he opened the message, Jake braced himself, anxious to understand how far their journey could take them. Would it fortify their connection, or would it unearth more complexities than he had anticipated? Jake's pulse quickened as he scanned the latest message from May. Her words poured forth like a fresh cascade of ideas, diverging from the expectations he had imposed on himself. Instead of routine discussion about logistics, she opened a dialogue about her past experiences with art, and how it could be a catalyst for healing. She described her childhood memories of creativity, a vivid tapestry of colors and emotions woven through her upbringing. In those words, Jake felt recognition. She understood the intimate dance of loss and renewal he had grappled with in silence. He glanced around the barn, its wooden frame now resonating with the energy he and May had begun to cultivate with their partnership. Every nail he pounded was more than just construction. It signified their shared intent to breathe life into something transformative. Yet, with every innovative idea May contributed, Jake felt a swell of fear gripping his chest. What if their visions diverged too far, creating a rift where collaboration once flourished? Determined to fortify their partnership, Jake initiated a video call with May that evening. Despite the distance, her presence on the screen glowed warmly. They exchanged friendly banter, a ritual that eased the transitions of multicultural discourse, yet beneath that lightheartedness was a storm of unspoken questions. The conversation flowed easily until the chatter dwindled, leaning into the deeper subject of their goals. Jake felt a quiver in his voice as he inquired about the elements of her life she hoped to express through the project. "I want to share the healing power of art," May declared, her voice steady. "When I lost my husband, I didn't have that outlet and it consumed me. I want to create a safe space for others to channel their grief, just as I wished I had." The rawness of her statement pierced Jake. Until this moment, he had been operating under the notion that their collaboration was solely about actionable plans and themes of revitalization. The gravity of vulnerability hung in the air, both daunting and liberating. "I can relate to that," he replied, tense of awareness unfurling in his mind. "I had to rebuild after my sister died. It's not a linear journey." In that instant, the shared acknowledgement of pain transformed the nature of their conversation. Jake realized that the emotional vulnerability they explored wouldn't detract from their project. Rather, it would lay a powerful foundation upon which they could build. By embracing their grief, they could create something profoundly authentic, but an unsettling thought crept into his mind. Did that mean he had to share his darkest moments? What if revealing too much of his vulnerability posed a risk to the carefully crafted bond they had formed? Questions swirled, battling the budding connection between them. As the conversation continued, ideas splashed across the digital canvas before them. They envisioned workshops that intertwined storytelling and artistry, an exploration of the healing journey through creative expression. Jake felt himself settle into a rhythm, answers forming as he understood their collaboration's essence. It would be raw and real, encompassing not just shades of joy but strokes of sorrow as well. Yet as his resolve grew stronger, doubt lingered like an uninvited guest. Would May be accepting of his struggles if he truly laid them bare? What if the weight of his experiences drove her away, rather than inviting her closer? That night, Jake tossed and turned, succumbing to the whirlpool of composure and fear. The prospect of sharing the darker chapters of his life sat heavily on his heart. In the lingering hours before dawn, a sense of clarity emerged within him. Perhaps it was time for risk. Maybe embracing authenticity could illuminate an even brighter path for both of them, anchoring their partnership in understanding and empathy. Jake's thoughts spiraled back to May, aligning their journeys that now felt intertwined in ways he hadn't yet comprehended. And just as resolve began to seep in, his phone vibrated again, another message flashing against the dark of the night, beckoning him to confront whatever awaited him on the other side. He hesitated, finger hovering above the screen, a threshold of possible revelation. What message could transform everything, for better or worse? His heart raced as he finally tapped the notification. Would it expose fragility or unlock a new depth to their partnership? Jake's heart hammered in his chest as he opened the message. May's words were breathlessly keen, a call to action that sparked both excitement and unease within him. She had sent a link to an article about a community project that successfully merged art with personal narratives. It served as both inspiration and a challenge, urging him to delve deeper into the conversation they had begun. He read and reread her thoughts, each sentence a gentle nudge urging him to grapple with vulnerability. They had sketched a plan, but now it felt as if May was pushing for more. Not just ideas on paper, but a real-life incarnation of the emotions and experiences that shaped them. Hadn't he just resolved to embrace authenticity? He pondered the implications of his past. How much should he reveal? That day he set aside his usual tasks, engulfed by the swirling tension in his mind. The sun hovered high, casting shadows in the barn as he paced its confines. Each corner overflowed with memories of his sister, echoes of laughter that had vanished into silence. The thought gripped him. Could he translate that sorrow into something meaningful? Something that spoke to others suffering similarly? With renewed determination, Jake began to sketch out ideas for the workshops May had proposed. He envisioned panels adorned with vibrant colors, textures that echoed emotion, and spaces where pain could be transformed into powerful expressions of hope. As he painted these images in his mind, a flicker of clarity ignited his purpose. He knew he could guide participants through their grief, utilizing storytelling, art, and shared experiences. Yet within this exhilarating prospect lingered a significant fear. Would opening himself up to this kind of emotional exposure frighten others, or draw them in? After hours of restless contemplation, he settled down with his notebook, pen scratching against the paper. He wrote about his memories, his sister's laughter, recounting moments too tender to share but now feeling liberated, as if giving voice to their absence could ease the heaviness within him. As the words flowed, the weight of his sorrow transformed into catharsis. Later, as he prepared to meet May for their next call, Jake felt the full weight of the decision resting on his shoulders. He would reveal fragments of his past. It was the key to truly connecting with her. The thought brought both anticipation and dread. What would she say when he exposed his scars? Their video call began, May's face brightening the screen. He immediately felt the magnetic pull of her energy, a force that seemed to bridge the distance between them. They fell into easy conversation as they discussed their individual plans, but Jake sensed a shift when he framed the idea of using personal narratives in their project. "Part of me feels like I should share my struggles too," he said, his throat tightening. "Why do you hesitate?" May's voice was gentle but probing, encouraging. He took a deep breath, fumbling momentarily for words. Was he ready to face the very essence of his grief in front of someone else? This wasn't just self-reflection. This was vulnerability on display. Because sharing those times isn't easy. What if it closes the bond we've built? She regarded him, contemplative. But what if it strengthens it? This project is about healing, Jake, and you can't heal if you hide your own journey. Her faith in him ignited something dormant within. He wanted to believe that this act of courage could ripple beyond him, affecting others yearning for connection amidst their despair. Yet the specter of doubt clouded his heart. Was he truly ready for such exposure? As the phone call unfolded, Jake found himself increasingly unsettled. He could either choose to stand forthright in his truth or retreat, allowing himself to remain hidden behind the comfortable veil of his past. With each passing moment, the stakes rose, and soon it would be time to make his stand. Both individually and alongside May, they were primed for a transformative journey. But before either could delve deeper, a notification chimed in the corner of his screen, diverting his attention and tilting the balance of their conversation. What awaited them on the other side of that unexpected reveal? Jake's attention snapped back to the screen as curiosity replaced the earlier tension crowding his mind. The notification was an invitation to a discussion forum, promising stories of resilience from far-flung corners of the world. He had joined in search of kindred spirits, grappling with personal wounds just like his, and had forgotten about it until now. "Hold on just a sec," Jake said, compelled to dive into the rabbit hole presented. With a few clicks, he was immersed in narratives that tugged at his heartstrings. The overwhelming sorrow and joy intertwined in other people's tales echoed his own struggles. One story in particular caught his eye. A man's heartfelt letter to a woman who lost her family, recounting how her grief inspired him to change his community for the better. His breaths grew shallow as he reflected on what lay before him. Would his story ignite similar sparks in others? The thought came nearly as a dare. Could he take the leap into vulnerability as this man had? Little by little, the pieces of his resolve fell into place. May's watchful gaze brought him back to their conversation. There was sincerity in her eyes as she patiently tapped the table. "Jake? Yeah, sorry about that," he stammered, trying to sift through the whirlwind of thoughts that collided against each other. The intensity of his realization heightened the stakes. Sharing his grief could serve as a beacon to someone else, proving that even from darkness, light can emerge. "I think I need to do it," he said hesitantly but with newfound strength clinging to each word. "I want to share my sister's story. I'll put it all out there, the good, the painful, everything that shaped my journey." As he spoke, the confirmation of his desire dawned within him. He could feel it resonate like a chord struck in harmony with May's encouragement. A smile broke across May's face, illuminating her features. "That's incredible, Jake. It's powerful to think about how your journey might touch someone else. But remember, this isn't just about sharing pain. It's about transformation, about how you navigated those turbulent waters." The notion settled in Jake's chest, feeding an insatiable thirst to connect authentically. Every word he had written in his notebook began to transform. They were no longer just raw reflections of sorrow. They were the raw materials of hope, ready to be forged into something beautiful. Yet a thread of apprehension lingered. Would reliving these moments transform into a burden or foster liberation for himself and for others? What if his efforts didn't resonate the way he hoped? The whisper of self-doubt crept back in, but it was overshadowed by an unwavering determination to forge ahead. "We can start by scheduling some time to practice together," May suggested, her voice steady and assuring. "Practice makes it easier. Sharing won't feel as daunting if you're prepared." A wave of gratitude swept over him, solidifying his choice even further. "Yes, let's do that. I want to make sure I do it right. It's important." As they continued to brainstorm methods to weave their stories into engaging visuals and narratives, Jake felt a sense of resolve that had long eluded him. Each idea built upon the last, layering a structure around his vulnerability, gradually transforming uncertainty into purpose. But just as they transitioned into discussing potential formats for their project, another notification pinged. Jake's heart raced as he glanced at the screen. It was an unsolicited message from someone he least expected, drawing him back into a world he thought he had distanced himself from. It was then that he knew. This individual held fragments of his past he had yet to confront. What new layers would this revelation unearth in his already tumultuous journey? The weight of that notification loomed over Jake, a phantom from the past that threatened to unravel the fragile tapestry of resolve he had begun to weave. He hesitated, glancing at May, who observed him with an intensity that felt almost protective. Her unwavering faith in him became a tether, holding him steady against the tides of anxiety rising within. Jake clicked on the message, his heart thudding louder in his chest. The screen illuminated the words that jolted his senses. It was from Clara, a childhood friend, someone who knew his sister well. They had once shared dreams on long summer nights, but their paths had forked dramatically, leading him to isolation and her to a life in a bustling city. As he read, each phrase transported him into a flashback of laughter mingled with the palpable weight of unsaid goodbyes. "I've been thinking about you lately," I found some things that belonged to Emily. The message trailed off, opening a door he wasn't sure he was ready to step through. The memories of Emily felt ghostly, vibrant yet haunting. Clara? He managed to murmur, the name slipping from his lips like a prayer. History rushed back, thickening the air around him with unresolved emotions. Would revisiting that part of his life nourish or suffocate his burgeoning openness? May sat quietly, sensing his turmoil without pressing for details. Do you want to talk about it? Her voice was gentle, a balm amid the confusion. Not yet, Jake replied, feeling the inner conflict churning. The invitation to dig into his past came with a heavy price, the potential to derail the hard-earned clarity he had just begun to grasp. Was he ready to revisit those memories knowing they might challenge the very narrative he envisioned sharing? Maybe it would help to reach out, May suggested, her words cutting through his uncertainty. Sometimes confronting the past is the only way to grow into the future. Jake considered her proposition. He could refresh old wounds, but perhaps that exploration was necessary. After all, understanding his past could illuminate his narrative's core, guiding him toward the transformation he sought not only for himself but for anyone who might resonate with his forthcoming sharing. Pushing away the sense of threat, he envisioned Clara's message as a potential framework for his story. What if confronting these memories turned out to be a key to unlocking deeper truths about his sister, truths that could inspire hope in someone else? Jake pulled out his notebook, the lines empty, waiting for his thoughts to fill them. This new chapter could be an opportunity to reconcile feelings that had been lodged deeply in his heart. He could weave Clara's narrative into his tapestry. Perhaps it wouldn't just be a piece of his story but a shared experience that could offer solace. Let's aim for practice tomorrow, Jake said, newfound courage igniting his words. I'll respond to Clara tonight. I need to know what she found. May smiled, a glimmer of pride sparking in her eyes. That sounds like a solid plan, Jake. Every step brings you closer to transformation. The simple act of preparing to confront his past became a defining moment. The prospect of rising from the shadows into the light began to feel tangible, solidifying his commitment to share his journey authentically. Jake took a deep breath, releasing the knot in his chest, as he felt an unexpected rush of anticipation. But even amid the thrill of progress, a chill of uncertainty lingered. Who would he become once these layers were peeled back? As he stared down at the blinking cursor on the screen, he couldn't help but wonder whether answering Clara would fortify him or open the floodgates to a reality he wasn't prepared to face. With a heavy heart he began to type, uncertain of where this engagement would lead him. The words flowed, but the fear of revealing too much had already begun to take seed in his mind. Would this invitation to reconnect with his past be the undoing of all he was trying to build? Jake found himself in a peculiar flux as he navigated the delicate balance between vulnerability and resolve. As he typed back to Clara, uncertainties danced around him like shadows, but this time, a new strength anchored him. He faced his past with renewed tenacity, like a wild river carving its way through rock, relentless. Each word formed an invitation, not just for Clara, but for himself. Dear Clara, he began, allowing the pulse of his thoughts to guide his pen. I never expected to hear from you, especially not after all that time. I'd love to know what you found. Emily's memory has been a beacon and a burden, but I'm finally learning to embrace both. Clara's response followed days later, a physical manifestation of the fractured time between them. In her warm words, she recounted moments frozen in time, Emily's laughter, the dreams they had spun under the starlit sky, and ultimately, the silence that enveloped him after loss struck. Those sentences pulled him deeper into memories and emotions, each letter revealing the landscape of their shared past that he had long buried. Yet something remarkable happened. Rather than feeling overwhelmed, Jake found layers of his own identity unearthing themselves. He felt the walls he built around himself crumbling as he unleashed fragments of the sorrow that had long been an anchor. Clara recounted not just memories, but also how Emily continued to inspire their friends, revitalizing hope through her creativity and vision. The realization dawned on Jake that these memories could serve as a foundation for the healing journey he and May envisioned. They were bound together by love and loss. When he shared Clara's message with May, her excitement mirrored the spark igniting within him. Your sister's spirit lives on in various ways, Jake. This is your chance to renew her legacy, to intertwine your experiences with hers, creating a narrative that can inspire healing for both of you, she encouraged. Their collaboration shifted. It transformed into something granular and real. Together they mapped out a unique workshop, an event named Legacy and Light, combining storytelling, art, and shared experiences, allowing people to honor their loved ones while illuminating paths toward healing. Each planning session became increasingly visceral, Jake shedding reservations and diving deeper into his personal narrative. The workshop flourished not only in plans but also in Jake's spirit. On opening day, standing before a room of expectant faces, he drew strength from his own elaborately woven history. With every word he spoke, his sister's laughter rang through him like a gentle chime, bolstering his resolve. Here's the truth, he said, his voice steady. Grief isn't just about loss. It's about creating spaces for joy to touch us again, and it's essential to fight for the light even amidst our darkness. As he recounted how Clara's reconnection had reopened pathways he thought were permanently sealed, the air thickened with above-expected emotional engagement. The vulnerability he once viewed as a potential weakness now became a sturdy bridge, leading others through their shared struggles. Participants began to share their own stories, their collective grief merging into a dynamic, healing energy that engulfed the room. Jake felt the burgeoning sense of connection, recognition, and even pride, the kind he once thought unattainable. Each exchange reaffirmed reciprocal healing, their stories soaked into one another like colors blending on canvas. The success of Legacy and Light transcended mere numbers. It became a cornerstone of a new chapter for Jake. The ranch housed not just physical rejuvenation, it pulsated with life, laughter, and the companionship he once feared was beyond reach. As he surveyed the rustic barn filled with the hushed whispers of healing hearts, something profound struck him. He was no longer living in the shadows of grief, but rather as an architect of light, inspiring change for himself and others. Jake had come to understand that vulnerability didn't just lead to scars. It also illuminated pathways for growth. May championed his transformation, embodying both professional and personal acknowledgement that this venture carried his sister's spirit, while propelling him into newfound territory. With Mui by his side, they mapped out future workshops, community events, and even art exhibits, a living testament to the dreams once abandoned. Time stood still as clarity paved his path. Jake's connection with May flourished, cementing not only a partnership bound by purpose but also a friendship steeped in respect and empathy. The very fabric of overcoming intertwined losses. As he leaned against the barn's sturdy frame surrounding him was a community blossoming alongside him. Each story vibrant, each laugh shared a reminder that change, though difficult, was indeed possible. He had risen from loss and learned that the true achievement lay not solely in his professional triumphs, but in the ability to face his past with courage. A journey anchored in authenticity, catharsis, and ultimately, fulfillment. As this chapter of his life drew to a close, he felt confidence inhabit him, a seasoned cowboy ready to tackle whatever the terrain of life presented next. His sister's legacy had birthed a new purpose, guiding him toward living fully in remembrance and action. For those who wish for a glimpse into extraordinary personal evolution and transformations, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Your voice matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. It could spark their own journey of transformation.